2021 was my first real year, like kind of, kicking it up and doing a lot of sales. So from 2020, I want to say I did right around $1 million, and then I was able to turn that into about 10 and a half in 2022 while, being able to do the same amount of rentals. So that's my business. It's always been rentals and turning that into future buyers and whatnot.
So the question is this: how do most agents find the secrets to succeed in today's competitive real estate market, especially when the top agents are keeping those secrets to themselves? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. Hi, I'm Aaron Amuchastegui, and welcome to Real Estate Rockstars. Hey, Real Estate Rockstars. This is Aaron Amuchastegui, and I'm interrupting myself to bring you this commercial break from one of our sponsors. And I know you guys would much rather listen to the content and not the ads and not the sponsors, but this is one that I'm actually super excited with. So many of the realtors that we interview on the show, they talk about how much systems are important and how much follow-up is important. And I'm really excited about our new sponsor. There's somebody I've been looking at for a long time, and when they reached out to me, I said, yes, we have to be able to do this deal. So that sponsor is Follow Up Boss. On an interview last week with agent Mark McGuire, I asked him what his favorite software and what his favorite system was, and he said it was Follow Up Boss. And then he went on for another 3 or 4 minutes to talk about why Follow Up Boss was the best CRM he uses. So there's a lot of superstars out there that use Follow Up Boss. Some of the stats they gave me: Robert Slack, 1.5 billion team in Florida, #1 in the US. He uses Follow Up Boss to get a 400% ROI on his massive paid lead spend. Deborah Beagle, co-owner of the Ashton Group in Nashville, uses Follow Up Boss to guarantee that agents who join her team get 2 homes under contract in the first 90 days. That's a big guarantee for new agents. Barry Jenkins of Your Friends in Real Estate uses Follow Up Boss to automate everything so his team can produce $200 million on 25-hour work weeks. All right, so here's an offer. You guys are going to get this special for being Real Estate Rockstars listeners. Now, I've used Follow Up Boss. We've actually used it in our non-real estate businesses as well because it's so good at being able to set timers, set automatic texting and emailing, and what do you know? Best name ever, Follow Up. So here's what we got. For Real Estate Rockstars listeners, you get a 30-day free trial. That's normally 14 days. So in order to get this, you go followupboss.com/rockstars. So again, followupboss.com, just like it sounds, /rockstars. Go there, get your 30-day free trial and check it out. Especially if you aren't using any systems or any CRMs yet, this will be a great one for you to start with. All right, everybody, thanks again. Now back to our show.
Real Estate Rockstars, welcome. This is Elliot Hoyte, and I have had the privilege of appearing on 3 different episodes on this podcast. But today I have the very distinct privilege of hosting this episode. And today I am interviewing Quentin Green of the Downtown Realty Downtown Realty Company, hailing from the windy city of Chicago, Illinois. Quentin, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. And Quentin, you are a fellow 30 under 30 recipient. You just won that award last month. Is that correct? Yep.
New honoree this year.
Congratulations, man. It's a big achievement. Welcome to the club, I guess, man. That's huge. I'm assuming you've had a lot of people reaching out to you and hitting you up and kind of asking you about that since that came to fruition.
Yeah, it's definitely a little weird. Thought maybe I would have to put my name in the hat again next year or the year after that. But yeah, I was super excited to be able to get it on my first try.
So that was your first try, yeah?
Yeah, that was my first go at it.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, it's a very prestigious award, and I know that there's been several people that have applied, 3 or 4 times even to get it. So congrats on that. I was actually a first-time recipient too. So yeah, it's nice. A big one, man. It's a big one. So tell me a little bit about what you do. Just tell me what do you do? What's your job?
So I'd say I'm probably a little bit less conventional than most agents who come on on this podcast. But so I've been in the business since 2016. Only thing I've been doing from college, been at the same firm, same job pretty much. But I started off just doing purely like luxury rentals downtown. I know a lot of people, who are agents throughout the country, they don't really have that same like rental market that we have in Chicago or New York or whatever. So I just did that for 4 or 5 years. And 2021 was my first real year, like kind of, kicking it up and doing a lot of sales. So from 2020, I want to say I did right around $1 million, and then I was able to turn that into about 10 and a half in 2022 while, being able to do the same amount of rentals. So that's my business. It's always been rentals and turning that into future buyers and whatnot.
So this is your first complete year on the sales side. Is that correct?
I mean, I've always had my license, but it's my first deal really doing sales. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of just getting started on that side of things.
So what spurred you to move from the rental space to the buying space? I guess I'll reverse a little bit here. Most people that listen to this podcast and most agents, I think in most markets, are more on the sales side than the rental side. I guess what's different from the rental versus the sales side now that you've seen both kind of sides of the spectrum?
Honestly, I don't think there's a lot of people think it's way more different than it is. I don't really think it's that different. The only reason why I started doing rentals because, when I first got in the business, I was either going to join a top producing team and learn the business that way, or I was going to start with rentals, build my book. I knew I wanted to be in the business for long term. But I was 21, so I didn't have many people, who were buying. I didn't really have that established network. I was from the city, thankfully. So, I had that presence, but, I would do 1 or 2 sales a year. And, by getting into sales, it really was just, my network maturing, me getting a little more experience under my belt and a lot of things kind of coming in line. But, yeah, for me, that's the only reason why I really got into it it was pretty much my age and lack of experience.
So let's hone into that a little bit. You were talking about there how you decided that you push more towards the sales side as your own sphere kind of came to age, and I'm assuming they've been in a better position to purchase and sell their own real estate. Does that mean that you run more of a relation-based business? Is it more leads? Is it more your sphere? How does that look for you?
Now that that I had a good year, I've been allocating more money into various like lead generation platforms. So, I'm a Zillow Premier agent. But that's maybe 5% of my business. It's not much, but yeah, previously, I've always been sphere of influence, and then turning a lot of rentals into buyers. So, this is the first year where I've really had a lot of those people that I, put into the high rises. My first 5 years, I've had, maybe 5 to 10, in 2021 and 2022 come and buy through me. So yeah, it's really been leaning a lot on my sphere. That's pretty much what I primarily focus on. And, I have that established network given, I've pretty much been in Chicago my whole life. So
nice. So you're I'm assuming because you're part of the downtown realty company, you're right downtown Chicago then?
Yeah. We're like right in the Gallery District in River North. So it's like right between Old Town, River North. It's a great area, tons of foot traffic, and yeah, we're right down there.
Okay, that's awesome. So you've probably seen a myriad of different kind of properties, or do you really deal with condos more than you deal with single family, or what does the real estate that you actually sell look like normally? Yeah,
so a lot of what I do, a majority of it's either condos or multifamily. Totally like different sides of things. I've done some single family homes here and there, but I've really only transacted maybe 1 or 2 single family homes. I got into multifamily mainly because like I said, we're a highly rental driven company. So we have a lot of landlords who are reaching out to us to lease out their properties. And especially, when COVID hit for us, our city had a harder time than most. So we had a ton of landlords reaching out to us, whether they were doing Airbnb, short-term rentals, or, it just became a way more difficult market. So where they previously would rent out units themselves, they needed some sort of guidance in order to, kind of figure out this new market. So we were getting a ton of calls. I was fielding calls almost every day from various Chicago landlords. And through that, I was able to, kind of meet a lot of these, long-term holders or people who are kind of looking to break further into the multifamily space. And really just from answering the phone, being able to help these guys lease out their units in a short period of time. When COVID hit, they came around and they either decided to sell buildings through me or purchase more buildings for me and expand their portfolio. So there's that side. And then, friends, family, you name it, whatever, like we definitely, we're a standard brokerage. So it's a lot of condos as well. But it's pretty much those two.
So that's awesome. So let's talk about that a little bit. So COVID, I'm guessing for you, from what you're saying, is helped you like it has a lot of business out there. COVID basically gave you a chance to go out and get more clients just by virtue of the fact you meet people that own properties. Yeah.
And that, I dedicate a lot of my time and energy, that I've spent this year and will continue to do so is really creating more relationships with a lot of those multifamily owners and really just, I mean, these guys, they get so many calls every day from a lot of these middle market brokers who are, looking to get in there. And, obviously anyone can sell their building right now in Chicago and they'll do incredibly well, but they're getting tons of those calls. So, what I've been kind of focusing on is really just reaching out to them and be like, hey, we could lease this thing up. We start a relationship with you. Fantastic. Buy, sell through me as well. But here's the immediate service we can provide you guys. And that's been successful for me in the past couple of years.
Okay, great. So me and my team here I'm based in Boise, Idaho. Obviously, everyone can tell I'm not from Boise. I was born and raised in England, but I'm out here in Boise, Idaho, and I always talk to my team members about bringing value. Right, value tends to be the main proposition for kind of long-term success. What do you think the value you've been giving these multifamily property owners? What's been the value proposition up front you give them that's allowed them to build that trust where they've now come around and said, okay, let me, help me buy and sell Quentin what I'm doing here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I would say 90% of the time, a lot of them are family run shops. So they don't have sophisticated marketing at all. They're not putting things on their multiple listing service. They're really throwing it on Zillow or apartments.com. Their pictures aren't great. And, they're putting it way below market, hoping that, they'll fill them up. And that's how they've always done things. And that, that's fine. They bought a lot of these properties a long, long time ago. So they are sitting on a ton of equity and most of them don't even have loans out on it. Where I come in is, I'm able to kind of recreate all that. I'm able to drive their rents, 20 to 25% more typically than what they're previously getting. It also, I also handle all their leasing too, which is really helpful for them. So, I don't manage, it's not something I'm looking to get into, but what I will do is I'll, take over their leasing. So when they have renewals, I'll be able to send that out. I have a team that is able to at least handle that side. And that's kind of just free of charge for me, because we're so leasing driven. It's really not much time out of ourselves because that's just such a good system. We're able to raise the rents big time. We're able to get units leased faster. And then we're able to take that whole leasing process and completely take it off of their shoulders.
So time is really the biggest thing, it looks like, right? I mean, other than marketing expertise, it looks like you're saving these guys time because they don't have to worry about the stuff that you've got a system that's honed in for. Time.
And then also, you look at and then the change in the rent roll, right? So someone is going to be way more likely to sell their property if you're able to boost their rent roll dramatically versus someone looking at a building, analyze it from a pro forma standpoint, right? Because it's going to take a year, 2 years in order to get those rents if you take it over as is with the lower rent. So, it puts them also in a much stronger position to go to market if they ever want to. And, I've had a lot of people have just not really realized the true value of their properties, and you come in and you're able to raise these rents and it gives them a better idea.
So are they seeing this? This is awesome stuff. So you're going in there, you're basically making their property worth more money just by virtue of the fact that it's renting for more. Obviously the cap rate's going to end up being higher, or you have more room on the cap rate to mess around with that. So are they seeing the change you're making, bringing the rents up is worth more money? And is that kind of opening their eyes to the possibilities of what they can do on the next play?
Yeah, I think so. It's never like, this is something I've been focusing on more in the past 2 years. It's never actually translated into a direct sell. But I'm working with two guys right now where that's likely going to happen. But, buyers, there's a lot of buyers out there, so they know the value of these properties. It really helps these properties sell faster more than anything else. And you maybe wouldn't even have to put on the market. You could sell it privately for the price that you're going to ask for, because anyone can go and do a pro forma, and that's nice. But yeah, if someone sees that it's already there, the rents are already there, they'll be way more likely to just pay ask and close on it faster.
So you're going to get to a kind of a new stage here. It's almost coming full circle, right? You're going from making the initial introduction, getting it rented, getting it up in value. Now you're coming to list it. How is the inventory in Chicago right now? So when I'm talking, when you're talking to these multifamily owners and they're saying, hey, Quentin, I want to sell it. Yep, I want to move up. Some of them might want to cash out, but more than likely, if they've had it for a long time, they're thinking, okay, let's move up, keep making this play, have more real estate. What is the inventory like? Is it going to be possible for them to do those kind of 1031 exchanges, or are you facing an inventory choke like a lot of the country is right now?
Yeah, I've had people do 1031s through me buying in Chicago, but they were selling from another state. But like generally speaking, we kind of have two main markets in Chicago. You have the downtown high rises. So, you're talking, and then you could split up the downtown high rise markets too, based on like high assessment buildings, low assessment buildings. But generally speaking, like we had the most inventory ever on the market at the peak of COVID. Then like we had more inventory in the high rises than we saw in 2008. So we had like 13, 14 months of inventory. in like the heart of River North, the Loop, and the South Loop. Like it was really, really hard to sell anything. So we're finally starting to see that market stabilize. There's more people buying condos, which is fantastic. Certainly some people are still losing money on a lot of their condos, but that is more of a normal market. Now, when you get into the broader neighborhoods, and, I don't know how familiar you are with Chicago, but you get into like the Lincoln Parks, the West Towns, the Lake Views, it is just totally insane. Anything from, 2-bed, 2 baths, 400,000 to, once you starting to get into the jumbo territory, it's multiple offers, people paying, 5 to 10% over, like what you're seeing in most markets, I would say. So that's where, we're similar to everywhere else, but in the downtown market, it's still very much a normal market and is good buying opportunity. So it's kind of split up like that.
So you really have micro markets then. It's not just a case of it being that across that you have to have a different game plan for different buyers and sellers, depending on the geographical location within a few miles, I'm assuming even. Is that correct? Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's really like the high rise market, and then sort of like the neighborhoods really, even if you're downtown though, and it's a smaller mid-rise building, and for some reason that stuff, a lot of that stuff is just moving a lot better. It's the high rises that just haven't totally bounced back yet.
Okay, perfect. So we're getting to know a little bit about the business side here. I want to dig in now that we're kind of comfortable with each other and we're kind of figuring out where each other's at. I want to know why real estate? Why did you get into this? What was the motivating factor? Was it an accident? Was it completely deliberate, or did it just what was the motivation?
So yeah, my dad and mom, they actually co-owned their own firm here for like 20 years, I want to say. So yeah, that was all I knew growing up. They would drag me to open houses instead of like paying for a babysitter. And then, as I got older, I'd be, smacking 2x4s and, doing hard labor at, the various properties throughout Chicago. So it's always been a part of me. My grandfather, he was a realtor too. But once I graduated college, like I didn't really think about getting into real estate, but, I was interviewing at jobs, a lot of it was like finance, banking. And I decided not to go that route. And I graduated and I just didn't really have a plan. My mom was like, why don't you just get your license? There's this company that's a little bit newer, but they specifically focus on leasing. And so, I interviewed a lot of top producers and I interviewed a few companies and I thought it just made sense to get into leasing. And, I didn't think I would stick around that long. I had planned on going to law school. And then about a year in, it kind of just made sense. And I started to kind of see the potential here. So that's, what got me into it. And, also part of the reason why I stuck around, because for me, it was a huge grind my first 3 or 4 years. But like seeing my parents, have success and sort of like having that in with the industry through their friends and that network. I knew it was just kind of a career that is really tough to find in any other career unless you start your own company. So, to me, that's what kept me in the business.
I think there's a similar story for a lot of people there, kind of how you either, it seems two extremes, right? You're either, I don't want to say born into it, but you're born around it enough to get gravitated into it, or you come completely from the other side and have no idea at all. It seems like you and I actually are on both ends of the spectrum, but we both ended up in this kind of 30 under 30 bracket, which is kind of cool. So that's awesome. So you said your grandfather was an agent or is an agent.
Yeah, so he was. So he actually came from the contracting background. He immigrated from Ireland, and so he had his own contracting firm. He did a lot of cement work and everything like that. And so he's 94. He still transacts real estate.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's insane. He, like, every time I go to his house, he goes to Florida in the summer, and he comes back to Indiana in the summer. But he's basically, it's just kind of his last hurrah. He's got a bunch of lots that he's trying to slowly, parcel together and then sell them all as a whole. So he's really it's kind of just his last, ditch effort to get these things together and then, sell them off. But yeah, he's still very much like transacting real estate. It's pretty wild.
That's great. It's always good to hear. That's what kind of keeps them going once they get to that kind of age. It keeps them driven and such. So do you ever talk to him much, Quentin, about the business? Do you guys ever, chat shop and figure out, strategy, and he's ever been playing anything on you, or are you guys in such different worlds that it doesn't make sense? I mean, how does that look?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely don't have we don't have brokerage conversations, but we talk about real estate as a whole in terms of like kind of what's going on in the market, because he was always he was more a developer, like contractor who had his license. So he just did it sort of out of like not having to, work with an agent who would just handle that stuff himself. So he was never a real estate broker first and foremost. But yeah, I mean, we have conversations about, all sorts of that stuff. He's he's, also he owns a bunch of land and that he's done, well on along Lake Michigan and stuff like that. So yeah, we talk about real estate all the time, just not as much about the brokerage side of things.
So being from a family background where you had, good influence growing up and obviously to this day even too, what's the biggest thing you say that you think you probably have, gleaned from your family, whether it's your grandfather, your parents? What's the biggest thing that you've learned from them that you've applied that's helped you to get to the point where you got to right now?
I mean, I would say for my parents, just kind of seeing the opportunities that provided with them. Had I not had that, I totally would have gotten out of the business my first, 3 years probably. Because it's really daunting when, for me, at least, like I was pretty stagnant, going from year 2 to year 4. And, you can only rent so many, rental units. And I guess, yeah, I mean, really seeing them turn their career into what it was, over time, and just really knowing that, it just takes a lot of time to succeed in this business, and you just have to see it out. To me, was the biggest thing from that, because I think had I not had that guidance and really had, been able to call my dad every once in a while, or my mom, when I was thinking about stepping out, and them convincing me to, stay in the business, was probably the biggest thing for me.
That's awesome. I spoke to Aaron about this in the last episode that I was on with Aaron, and the biggest thing that I gleaned too, funnily enough, had to learn it a little bit the hard way, was definitely the patience side of things. For things, because we live in this world where we see instant gratification every day, right? We got Instagram, we got TikTok nowadays, dare I say it, where everyone sees the kind of success, and everyone sees, shows like Selling Sunset, which is great. It definitely gives an insight to an extent of how we run our businesses. But for every great TV personality there is selling real estate and making millions, there are literally tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people on the other side of the spectrum trying to break it through. So I always love to sit down and talk to people like yourself that kind of have been through those hard times, because I know there's someone listening right now who's probably going through one of those hard times, trying to figure out how they're going to grow their business or how they're going to even survive. If they're anything like I was in my first year. I didn't sell anything for the first 8 months, which was kind of tough when you have when you don't know what you're going to do. So what on that note, what do you think has been the hardest challenge? Or was there a time where you were really questioning things? Was there a time where you're like, I don't know if this is for me or not? And if so, how did you kind of get through that patch?
Yeah, I mean, the hardest thing for me was definitely just waiting around for the sales to kind of come to fruition. Like for example, like today I got a call from someone I spoke with 3 or 4 years ago that I really don't remember. Now they're looking to sell, but like at that time when I was starting off, you don't realize the exponential nature of this business. Like what you do today might pay off in 5 years, 10 years. You really never know. And so just kind of understanding that was really helpful for me. Something that was really difficult though was kind of having the confidence to be able to compete with a lot of these, other top agents. Now I feel a little bit better, and I spend so much time digging into the market in every which way, where even though I still don't have the same experience as some of these $100 million top producers, like, I feel like I can provide just as good of a service and be able to offer just as much insight. And that is really something that, again, just came with time. So a lot of this stuff for me is just the time of sticking into the business and sort of finding my confidence, to me was one of the biggest challenges, but also one of the brightest paths for me.
Absolutely. So correct me if I'm wrong. You said 10 million was your first year as what you call full-time sales, right? Or thereabouts. That was what you did.
Yeah. And I mean, I would have loved to do full-time sales the other years. It's just the sales just weren't there, So
are you going to be focusing, I don't want to say it wholly on the sales side, but would you say that's going to be your focus moving forward, like for the next year, basically for this 2022 period? Has that been your main focus to this point?
Yeah, primarily. I still do. I don't deal with as many like tenant reps. So but I do have new agents on my team, and I like to give them a lot of those leads. So stuff that I normally otherwise would have taken, I'll now give to them, because I still do strongly believe in starting off with rentals in order to drive your future business. So I'll do that. And I've been able to shift a lot of that to my team, because I just am a lot more busy with sales and, various other, like we work with a lot of like developers and investors on, 50 to 100 unit buildings. So like my team will handle the leasing side of that as well. And so I'll mainly be the point, but I'll be able to kind of assign people into, which role that is.
Real Estate Rockstars. This is Aaron Muchastegui with a quick commercial break with one of our newest sponsors. I'm super excited to be partnering with these guys. Does 15 to 20% ROI investing in turnkey rentals sound attractive? Did you know you can use the BRRRR strategy with new construction that has immediate equity already? You guys have heard me talk about stuff like this. Rent to Retirement offers fully turnkey properties that are newly built or renovated, leased and managed, allowing you to invest with confidence out of state. They have single family, multifamily, new build, and syndication opportunities across multiple markets that maximize cash flow, appreciation, and equity. Rent to Retirement assists investors in learning how to build a comprehensive business plan with the best investment and tax strategies to achieve financial freedom through real estate investing. There's no excuse not to get started in real estate investing when you have the right team and systems in place. To learn more, visit renttoretirement.com. That's renttoretirement.com or call 1-800-311-6781. That's 800-311-6781 to learn about how you can get started investing in some of the best cash flow markets today. And if you guys want to learn more about Zach, episode 1025, we dig in for a good 45-minute interview where he tells you the secrets to investing in real estate out of state. And him and I shared a lot of ideas about what works and what doesn't. You'll get to hear a lot about his company and his business. If you're an agent from out of state and you've got referrals looking for stuff, they work with other agents on a referral basis. And we've talked so much since COVID hit that everybody needs to have a backup plan, right? Every one of you agents needs to have a backup plan. You should all be investing in real estate. And if you're having trouble finding the time and the team to do it, maybe something like Rent to Retirement is the solution for you. So thank you for listening. Go check them out. Now back to the rest of our podcast.
So let's talk about your team a little bit. How is that structured? What's your role, and how does that look?
I'd say it's probably the least structured team you'll ever find. It's it's pretty different. I have one agent who has both her sales license and her and does a lot of rentals. And then I have one agent who's new, who just does rentals. So the way I kind of handle it, I'm still able to handle all of my sales. It's not a problem. I don't have a transaction coordinator or an assistant or anything like that. I'm really able to kind of manage everything. But with them, I kind of because, I have a few buildings across the city that we do leasing. I really set them up based on area and kind of what makes sense. We all see each other's calendars. We're all on each other's calendar invites. So from that side, it really makes things easier. But yeah, it's they kind of do their own things, right? And then I'm able to also provide them with those additional leads in order to kind of keep their business growing and keep them in the game.
That's your value add there. You kind of delegate. You're killing two birds with one stone almost. You're delegating some stuff off to keep things off of your plate, but it's also bringing them value because it's bringing them opportunities they would have had before.
Totally. Yeah. And I really am only in a position to hire people who want to get started in leasing because unfortunately, I don't have the sales leads in order to, keep a lot of other sales agents busy. So, I'm always looking for people who, either, if they have their license, fantastic, great, but they also have to have the need for leasing and want to start off with that. Because if a sales agent just comes in, I'm unfortunately, I'm going to be giving you a lot of rental leads.
So it seems almost like you're kind of bringing them through the way that you came through, right? You started just with the rentals. So there must be some pretty good value out there just because you can actually stand behind it and say, hey, I know that this isn't necessarily where you want to be long term. You want to be towards the sales side, but I've been there and done it and got to this point. So you're kind of proof in the pudding that, hey, if you follow the system, it's going to work out eventually.
100%. And, that's all I know really is kind of just that system. I do, a few years down the line, sure, I'll be able to hire, full-time sales agents, but just with the way my career is right now, it wouldn't be the case. And it works, I have one guy who he just started at the end of 2021. And he's doing 10 to 15 rentals a month. It's great.
How does that compare to the sales side financially? It's one of those things that, people, we have to talk about. It's a money side of things. If you're doing 10 to 15 rentals a month, how does that compare to one of your average median price sales there in the area you're at? Is it the same workload?
If you're doing 10 to 15 rentals a month, let's say the median price is it'll be anywhere from $2,000 to $2,500 probably in Chicago, probably closer to $2,500. So, you do the math there, you're looking at anywhere from $125 to $150 a year just from doing that. When you split with your brokerage, that's your full take home would be something like that, or at least at our company. So, you can make well into six figures just doing leasing. And we have a lot of people at our company who actually do that.
Yeah, this is a new world to me on the leasing side. Boise's a bigger city, but it's nowhere near the size of Chicago. So this is you're educating me a lot today. So yeah, it seems like you can make a pretty good living that way. You don't have to necessarily even get into the sales depending on how driven you are. By the looks of it, I mean I'm guessing 150 a year in Chicago is at least a reasonable living.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Totally. Yeah. I mean, you'll be in a really, really nice, like 1-bed condo with, all the amenities. It's a 150 a year is great for a city like Chicago.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's good stuff. Like I said, you're educating me for sure there. We don't really deal with much leasing on this side at all. It's only on the commercial side we deal with it really here in Boise.
Right.
We don't really dabble in the commercial stuff a lot, but they tend to be bigger checks because you're talking about, multi-million-dollar leases over a long period of time versus the residential side, which is completely different. You're talking, I'm guessing your average term is 12 to 24 months, or is it shorter sometimes? Yeah,
12 to 24 typically. And then what we have here is, so we have like two rental markets, essentially. We have everything on the MLS, which are going to be condo rentals. So, you're working with another agent on that. And then you have, the actual rental buildings that are professionally managed. And those are not going to be on the MLS, and they have pretty much independent relationships with various brokerages across the city. And the good thing about that is you're not working with another agent. So you're basically taking way more commission. And that commission in a market like Chicago right now, it's really low because there's so much demand. So they're able to pay brokers a little bit less, fine, but you make it up in volume. But at the height of COVID, when, you had vacancy drop like a needle, vacancy went up quite a bit. A lot of these buildings were 15% vacant. You'd see 200% commissions out there. So that's 200% of 1 month's rent.
That's a lot. I mean, so they're giving away basically the first 2 months just to get someone in there and get the rent rolling. That,
they're also offering 2 months free to the tenant side as well.
Oh, so
that's how bad it was here. It was unbelievable.
So they weren't even making money until month 5, basically. Or not even making money. They weren't actually even putting cash flow into the bank until month 5.
Get these people in, break even on our loan, and figure it out later. Just get these people occupied. Yeah.
If that's what it takes to get it done, then I guess we can't complain if you're on the other side getting 200% of that rent. So,
right. And that's why it's such a crazy market now, is because so many people got into these insane COVID deals where, they're paying anywhere from 25 to 35% below, what is now the new market rent. And then now their rents are closer to 40% more because it's increasing based on the market when you take out the concessions. And so it's just driving a lot of these people out of these units, and, both on the buy side and then also on the rent side, we're just seeing crazy appreciation.
So that's really interesting. So they've, landlords have gone into this, during the COVID or when things first hit, and they were under, by today's standard, under renting, and they was undervalued. So is that having an effect where it's kicking people out of the city that can no longer afford to be there because rents have risen that much? Are you seeing that at all from a renter's perspective?
Yeah, you're absolutely seeing that. You're seeing people look into other neighborhoods they wouldn't previously be looking at. No doubt about it.
Okay. I never looked at it from the rental side, only from the buying side. We talk about really from the buying side displacement as far as people needing to move from, city to city, from state to state. But yeah, the rentals market seems to be just the same with that kind of pickup. So you're slicing and dicing here. You're dealing with the rental side, you're dealing with the buying and the selling side too now, more on the kind of the resale and sales. This is the $1 million question for most people, especially for anyone that's trying to glean a little bit of, okay, how do I actually do this job? Because I know there's a lot of, probably first time or newer agents listening. How do you get your business, Quentin? How do you come about it? I know you said that you do a little bit of the Zillow stuff, but let's talk about the more organic things. How do you conjure that up? How do you identify when someone's ready? How do you put yourself even in the position to be around them to have this conversation about real estate?
So I want to think of tangible things that I could, give someone to help them out. One thing, if you're new in the business, the first thing you should do is work on putting a list together of all the people you've ever interacted with. Just get it on an Excel sheet. It took me way long to do that. It took me 3 years. And so get that list together, have it there constantly, once a month, keep adding to it. And then just start doing a newsletter, because not only you should always be following up with clients, checking in maybe once a quarter, whatever you feel comfortable with, just to kind of gauge them. And then, the level of touch you're going to give them will be tiered up based on, I guess, how close you are to them. That's, one way I look at it, but also have this like newsletter to accompany it, where it could be any, it could be cool. Like, and what I do is I break it down by neighborhood, which is cool. If I know someone's in a certain area, it'll be like specific information to that person. And that's actually been able to take the burden of doing a lot of these, quarterly touches away from me, because I'll get so many emails whenever it gets sent out once a month and be like, oh my God, like this is awesome. Or, whatever, like, hey, I got a friend who's looking for a place. So it's another way to touch people and keep them like at the top of mind. So to me, that's something I should have done a lot sooner than I do now. But otherwise, I mean, you got to get out there, a lot of people like have some hobbies, put yourself out there as often as you can. Like the amount of business you'll find just from talking to people, I think is so important, so yeah, do that. And also like for me, I was such a nervous realtor my first 2 years. Like a lot of my buddies like I said, they were bankers, consultants, they're in law school. And like, as someone who my friends jokingly call me professional door opener, I was pretty self-conscious. Right. And so like, I wouldn't feel that comfortable like telling someone like, yeah, I'm a realtor and like I can help you with like anything whatsoever. And over the years, I've had that confidence, but it took me a little while. So like find a way to, get that confidence and like be that person, like, definitely just like make sure everyone knows you're a realtor, like do it in a subtle way, of course, but make sure people don't be that undercover agent, I guess.
There's some good stuff there, I think, to uncover for sure. And I definitely agree with you on a lot of those points. I think too many times, especially in the market we've been seeing, there's probably more agents than there's been at any point in history in our market. People are afraid to say they're a realtor because of the competition, but that's a great point. That confidence is huge. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but for me personally, I consume as much about my profession as possible, whether it's market information, whether it's transactional things, contract things, the ways that we can put things together to make it easier for buyers, or the marketing side, right? Like, what can we learn about the newest, latest marketing kind of thing that's going to give us a little bit more of an edge? Definitely builds towards that confidence, for sure. That's a huge point. And you talked a little bit there about just from a generating business perspective too, kind of having hobbies and stuff. What's kind of your main hobby? What do you do outside of real estate that has you rubbing shoulders with people that you think may actually end up, if they haven't already, using you one day on the real estate side? What's your kind of thing that you do in your spare time?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like a retired athlete, so I still play soccer quite a bit. So yeah, I've actually gotten a lot of business from that. I'll play 2-3 times a week throughout various leagues, or like we have like meetup where you'll do pickup with some guys. So a lot of that that's gotten me some business. Me and my girlfriend are like part of a wine club, which has been good. But everyone's pretty much a realtor.
Yeah, because they're all the same idea, right?
Yeah, right. That's been like whatever. But I'm also a little fortunate in that like I grew up in this city. I went to a Midwest school, so a lot of my college network ends up living in Chicago. My girlfriend went to a Big Ten school. She went to law school here. And so like, I definitely had that established network, but I go out, a good amount, I'm not staying out till, I'm not a weekend warrior like I used to be, but I really like try to spend a lot of time like engaging and going out, because to me, like, you're not really off the clock, like a lot of the, you got to be really social. You got to put yourself out there. And so for me, yeah, that's there's no secret to it. It's a couple hobbies here and there. And then, just spending a lot of time, getting out and about the city.
That's a great point. I mean, I'd love to sit here and ask you the traditional question, what's the magic pill? But there really isn't one, is there? I mean, it's a case of finding things that you enjoy that you can basically put yourself in position to talk to people. So yeah, that's some of the ways I did it too myself. And I still to this day do it. It's just a case of getting out there. Being stuck in the office is not going to get you deals. There's not that door behind you. There's not a chance that someone's just going to walk through and say, hey, I need to list this $10 million house, or I need to buy a $10 million house, whatever that
Absolutely.
That's
and another thing you were saying was, like you're trying to fill your brain with as much information as possible. Like I'm totally with you, man. Like I listen to the amount of podcasts like I listen to every day. Like I listen to 4 to 6 hours. A lot of it's like finance stuff or whatever. But like, I found my niche with a lot of like bankers in this city, like who work at, William Blair or UBS or whatever. And like, I'm able to have pretty in-depth conversations with them. And, it's definitely not something that like your average real estate broker would be able to talk about. And so that's like kind of cool, but like just, stuff your brain with as much information as possible. We deal with such diverse clientele, and you'll just be able to find different ways to strike conversations, and kind of, leave people with a lot more. And so, or like, be a sports fan, everyone likes talking about sports, right? So, there's just so much you can do to kind of, educate yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a massive one, especially out in America. It doesn't matter whether you're an athlete or not. Most people at least have some kind of sport they're into. That's a huge point. So I used to play football at Boise State, and I don't think I leveraged that enough. And I say football, I mean like American football, not soccer. I don't think I leveraged that enough in my first couple of years. I wasn't famous by any means, but there was enough people that knew who I was. And I was always kind of shy to not bring that up. And I kind of wish I had now, because I didn't realize the power of athletics and that kind of that common ground when you live in a town where, the football team is the only thing you have. There's no professional sports team.
Yeah.
I think that, athletics is always a massive one for sure.
And that's such a cool story too. I mean, you grew up in England, right? Where like not even many of your friends are playing football, I assume.
No. I had to travel 2 hours to actually play American football. It was all soccer. I grew up playing soccer actually. So that's where I got my footwork from. So I played up until I was about 11, and then I was far too big. So you can't tell from behind the microphone there, but I'm 6'5" and about 270 something pounds right now, which is actually down on my weight before. So when I got to about 16, I played up till I was about 11. I got in between 11 and 16, I had my massive growth spurt. And I was like, I don't think soccer is for me anymore. You can't really carry, 250 pounds around the field. Yeah. It is. It's nuts. So rugby and football, like American football, are my thing. But I have to ask you now, man. So if you're a soccer guy, this is a big one. Anyone listening who's a soccer fan understands how crazy English soccer is. Do you have a soccer team that you follow?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not huge into soccer, but I have always rooted for Man City, which I know is.
No, that was the wrong answer. Anyone who's listening that understands how soccer is. I'm a Manchester United fan.
You're United? Okay.
Yeah, Manchester United and Manchester City go to oil and water. It's just not a great combination.
No.
But I'll let you get away with it just because you're actually into soccer. If I was back home in England and a Man City fan pulled up and I was next to them, we're probably blowing a few punches because that's just what we owe our clubs, So
that's what you're doing.
That's crazy. So no, that's great. That's awesome stuff there. So as you develop your career here and you develop your team and kind of where you're wanting to head towards, have you sat down to figure out what the next steps are? What are you going to have to put in place, Quentin, to get to where you want to get to? What's the thing you're going to be enacting on this year that's going to help you get to that next step?
I don't know, this is either a good thing or a bad thing, but I have never been that type of person who's like had these like 5-year goals and 10-year goals. Like, I want to be comfortable, and like this business gives me a ton of energy. And I love that about it. And, as long as I have that and I'm able to find success, to me, that's the most important part. I'll say year by year, I get a pretty good perspective of things. Like I think I could turn that 10 mil into 20 mil. But more importantly, I also want to be able to get both, my agents on my team. I want to get them to like 75 rental deals in the year of 2022, which will be a big deal for me. That'll set them up really well. So there's that for me. I don't have any like big goals of growing my team to, 10, 15. Like, I don't care about that. I'll take it as it comes and I'll adjust when need be. But for me, like I want to be able to have a successful business. I don't want to grow too fast or anything like that. I want to be able to still provide a great service. And, for me, like if I were to tell like a year ago from now, like to me, like the things that I improved on the most were not things that I ever would have been able to predict, that, that I've kind of fallen into and figured things out that have been really important. So it's kind of humbled me in a way where like, I'm all about having lofty goals and everything like that, but I really try to just take it as it comes. But, I'm going to be in this business for a while. So I have great, big goals for myself, but I don't know what those are going to exactly translate to.
So you're just kind of flying by the seat of the pants a little bit. And I guess it's not always a bad thing, I suppose. I mean, if you're telling me what you're telling me, that if things have moved faster than even you predicted, you can't really see the way things are going. You're probably playing catch up just to make sure that you can be here and now and deal with things on a day-to-day basis. So I guess asking the 5-year business plan might be a little bit tough as things grow. And that's been one of the recurring themes, I think, of especially with the other 30 under 30 guys I've spoken to. I think a lot of us have had a lot of, not instant success because there's no such thing, but we've had a lot of very fast and quick success. And it's been a very steep trajectory. It's kind of hard. You almost feel like playing catch up most days. Don't know about you, but it is for me. I feel like some weeks go by and I wonder if I actually did a good enough job because there's been so much going on,
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure that someone could sit down and, and take some of what I just said and be like, but you also need to have these specific parameters in order to, grow, stay in the business, and so on and so forth. And that very well might be the case. But I don't know. I guess I've just seen a lot of people who have had these, really crazy lofty goals. They've overextended themselves, put them in a bad spot. And so, to me, that has influenced me. Where, I'm not in any rush. I'm going to be in this business for a very, very long time. I plan on being a top producing agent in the city for a long time, and, we'll take it as it comes. But yeah, I think this year it'll be a lot of, kind of getting things organized in order to grow further.
That's the biggest thing the kind of wisdom that I portray to agents myself ask me is one of the hardest things, I think, and you've just touched on this yourself, is understanding when it's okay to take a step back for a little bit and put those systems in place. I think as agents, right, we get so head up with the day-to-day stuff. We often don't take a step back and figure out, okay, what do we need to put in place to kind of feel like we're in control? Because it's tough, right? Taking a week away from the day-to-day stuff just to sit down and outline that, okay, this is what we're going to put in for kind of the stop safes, kind of the fail safes. It can be tough, it can be really tough. And I struggle with that. To this day, it's really hard to figure out, okay, when's a good period of time if there ever is one? Because like you said, man, you said earlier, we're working 24/7, basically. We're always kind of on call, right? We're always out there in front of people. It's tough to just step back and be like, okay, this is what we need to do to make sure we're good for the future, for sure.
Right.
So, so I think we covered a lot of ground there, man. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and kind of impart some of your wisdom on me and learn a little bit about your market and definitely the rental side of stuff too. I personally had no idea at all that you could do pretty well for yourself on the rental side of stuff. So I'll, for anyone that is listening, Quentin, that wants to reach out to you and learn a little bit more about your story or even referrals too, because that's a big thing that we definitely have been providing in this network here. What's the best way for them to reach out to you? You're an Instagram guy, email, phone number. How should they do that?
Yeah, I'd say probably Instagram. I'm one of those guys who has like two Instagram handles because I was nervous when I first got into real estate to just turn my, personal profile into my one. Now I wish I wouldn't have done that, but whatever. So it's Quentin Green _RE. That is my like business one. And then I think it's like Quentin Green _ is my other one. So that, and then, email is great for me. So, but you could look up Quentin Green Chicago online and you'll find me, have all my contact info. But yeah, anytime anyone wants to ever reach out, got any questions, referrals, you name it, happy to always hop on the phone and to chat it out.
Perfect. Well, if anyone's, listening right now and they stayed on and want to make it to this far in the podcast, definitely go ahead and give Quentin a follow there. I know that most people that make it to the 30 under 30, that's just the beginning for them. And this guy's going to be onto some pretty big stuff. I'm almost sure of it because the success rate is pretty high. Again, Quentin, thank you for taking the time to meet with me, and best of luck to you in the future here. And I will be keeping up with you on Instagram myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, man. It was a great talk.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, real estate rock stars. This is Aaron Muchastegui jumping in again to thank you for listening to the show. Hopefully you guys loved listening to that one. And I want to make sure that you know about all of the extra resources that we have. And also we need your help. They say podcasts are free. You get to listen to podcasts for free. But what is the cost of that podcast? I would say if I could beg you to pay anything for that podcast, I would say the cost of the podcast is going and giving a review. So whether you download it on Google or Apple or YouTube or anywhere else, please go give us a review. Say what you liked, what you didn't like. It helps us get better guests. The more reviews, the higher we get in the rankings. Right now, we are the biggest podcast out there for real estate agents, and we want to keep that spot because we know there's lots of podcasts out there. So go give us a review. Also, be sure to go to hibandigital.com. If you liked any of the resources that those real estate agents talked about, we've got a huge video vault of those resources for free. Every penny that comes on the podcast that we interview, they give us something that helps them get their deals or helps them work with their clients. And we put that in the toolbox in our vault for you. So go to hibandigital.com and you can get it. If you're looking for real estate education, go to rebusuniversity.com. We have all sorts of courses in there to help agents succeed in real estate, how to get the listing, how to negotiate deals, how to become an investor, all sorts of different stuff, rebusuniversity.com. And if you want to chat with me, go find me on Instagram. And if you come find me on Instagram, you can send me messages. Tell me what you want to hear. Tell me what you liked, what you didn't like. We try to put a bunch of content out there too. You can find me in 2 different places. It's at rerockstars.com for our Real Estate Rockstars page, or at aaronamuchastegui.com for my personal Instagram page, where I can chat with you about all sorts of different things. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again soon.